all the people I know out there. Hello to all the people I know out there and don't. Very first thing, as always, I thank my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ for giving me the strength to be able to do what I do, be able to give us these wonderful freedoms that we have in this nation. That's where I'm going to start off at right now. You know, it's going to be hard for us to have fiscally responsible government in a nation that is slowly losing grip on the primary right that we have in this nation, which is freedom. Mm-hmm. Freedom of choice, freedom of speech, freedom to decide your own destiny, freedom to make choices about your health care, freedom to make choices about where your children are educated. The further we move into our future, it seems like the further we're moving down the road to where this place is almost unrecognizable. Yeah. Got off an airplane coming home from Salt Lake City last night, and the gentleman asked, "Where are we?" And someone said, we're in Raleigh. He said, "No, where are we?" He said, "Is this the United States of America? Was this 1939 in Germany? Was this 1960 in the Soviet Union? Or in Cuba? Where are we? Where have our rights gone?" There will be no fiscal responsibility. There'll be no lowering of taxes. None of that will exist if we don't get back to the primary mission that we're supposed to be as elected officials, or supposed to have as elected officials in the state and in this nation. And that is to protect your freedoms. That is our primary mission. It's what we swear to when we put our hands on that Bible. We affirm that we'll protect our Constitution, state and federal. And we're supposed to know that we're not dictators who can tell you what to put in your body, mm-hmm. who can tell you where your children have to go to school. They can tell you in order to keep your job, you have to make a decision about whether or not you're going to take this medicine or that medicine. That's not America. It never has been, it never should be.
That's right.
So we've got to make up our minds what kind of government we want. We want a government that trusts people. We want a government that continues to treat its citizens like children. You know, in this whole COVID crisis, when the whole thing happened, my first assertion about it was suspicion, because I felt like it was being politicized. And it turned out that I was absolutely right. COVID is a virus, and COVID can hurt you. COVID can kill you. It's very dangerous. And we need to do what we can to protect ourselves from it. But let me say what I just said again. We need to do what we need to do in order to protect ourselves from it. You know, I have a governor in North Carolina. My father's been dead since 1979. My mother's been dead since 2016. I'm not supposed to have somebody who's supposed to be telling me what to do. We need a government that's going to give us good information. Going to give us the information and allow us to make the decision. Because ultimately it's up to us to take care of ourselves. The same can be said for our economy. You know, when it comes to our economy, the big thing right now, of course, is our budget. How we're going to spend our tax dollars here in North Carolina. Now, I'm a person who believes that the less money we spend, the better. I believe that government spending can be cut, and I think it can be much more efficient. You know, we need to take a clue from some of these big giant corporations, the Walmarts, the Amazons. We need to take a clue from them. Efficiency is what gives you value for your dollar. Governments are never efficient. Ever. They're never efficient. And that's what we need to get to. We need to get to the point where we have a government that's more efficient. And so we're talking about the budget in the Senate. And the minority leader, he stands up. He's one of the last ones to speak, second to the last to speak during the debate. And he says, well, you know, a lot of conservatives like to say, well, you know, under your leadership, North Carolina's economy grew 12%. He said, but I'd like to remind you that under our leadership, it grew 20%. And boasted on the things that they'd done. And when he sat down, our President Pro Tem, Phil Berger, stood up and he said, yeah, sure. The economy grew 20% under your so-called leadership. But at the end of it, what was it that had really grown? Was it really the economy or was it the government? Because at the end of it, what we had was we were through some $3 billion in debt to the federal government. The state was dead broke, didn't have any surplus whatsoever. We were laying on state employees left and right, and teachers had not had a raise in 6 years. Does that sound like fiscally responsible government? Does that sound like growth? Absolutely not. What sounds like growth is what's been done through conservative principles since where we now don't owe the federal government any money, where we now have a surplus that is outstanding, where we now are giving teacher raises every time we can when the governor is not vetoing them. So we have fiscal responsibility, but we can stand even more. We can stand even more fiscal responsibility in this state. And I'm going to tell you, it's going to take fiscal responsibility to do what needs to be done in this state. I'm just going to tell you all what my vision is for this state in the upcoming years, where I'd like to see this state go in the next decades. Guys, I have trouble standing still because I have vertigo. I'm going to see if I can move. If y'all can't hear me, I'll come back to this. So, can y'all hear me?
Yes.
All right, great. So here it is. We have a state that's basically divided in three parts, and y'all know this. We have the western part of the state, which is the mountains. Then we have, it's four parts. The western part of the state, which is the mountains. Then we have that middle part of the state, which is, this part that we're in right now, where the good old Research Triangle Park is, and all Guilford and Wake and all those places are. And then you have the eastern part of the state, and then we have our magnificent coast. Folks, as I travel the state, I see parts of our state have been neglected. And one of the parts of our state that I think has been neglected the most is the eastern part of our state. Oftentimes we drive through it and it's almost like a barren wasteland. And I look at it and I think, my God, what are we doing with all this space out here? What are we doing with it? We have such a fantastic opportunity here. We have a fantastic corridor that runs up through there, I-95. We have railroad lines that run up and down in that area. CSX Railroad has got a hub out there, if I'm not mistaken. And then right out there on our coast, we have that, that magnificent coast. And you look at what's going on both sides of our state. In Virginia, look at their port. South Carolina, you look at their port. They're basically using I-95 to make money off us, and there's nothing in that area. We're letting that place go to waste. That's going to be the goal that I have, that I'm going to set for myself in this state, is to see to it that we expand our economy and make our economy grow out in the east. We've got to do it, folks. North Carolina is on the absolute cusp of becoming an absolute powerhouse in this nation. But we are not going to be able to do it unless we adhere to what this group proposes, which is government fiscal responsibility. We cannot do it without that. We have got to make sure that we have a government that is operating for the good of the people instead of the good of the bureaucracy. All too often, that's what happens. We see bureaucracies that are like, I call it a self-licking ice cream cone. It's an ice cream cone that doesn't exist for your nourishment, your pleasure. It exists for its own. We see some agencies right now in North Carolina that I can name that's a good description for them. Sadly, our education system in many ways exists that way. It's not here for the children, not here for the parents. It's not really here for the teachers. It's here for the bureaucracy. For far too long in this state, this is how this state was run. But conservatives have been, in the last 10, 12 years, have been working hard to reverse that trend. And they have. They have. North Carolina is one of the top destinations for businesses in this country. A state which we do have a liberal governor. But we have a very conservative legislature. And businesses still want to come here. We haven't scared them off. The big, evil, conservative ogres have not scared them off. Why? Because we are building an economy that is favorable for their success. And that's what it takes. It takes building an economy that makes businesses successful. Look, the government can't do this. Can't do it. I've known since I was 16 that the government can't do anything. When I was in the United States Army, here it is. When I was in the United States Army, the federal government had the United States Army critically short of boots. I can particularly remember going to basic training and they said, here's your boots. We usually give you 2 pair, but we only have 1 right now. Possibly next cycle you'll get another. The United States Army critically short of boots. Could you imagine if Google was critically short of information? I'm sorry, I can't look that up right now. We're short on information. Amazon can stock millions of products, millions, literally, of products. And, you know, my God, it seems like, because I order a lot from Amazon, guys. It seems like as soon as you push that button, there's ding ding, and you go out and you look, and there's the package. Compare that with the post office. You know, I used to make this joke with my wife all the time, and it's a good example of the speed of private industry, which is where we need to rely on, and the inefficiency of government. So you take UPS. When UPS delivers to your house, it sounds something like this. Boom, ding, ding, boom. Literally, that's what it sounds like. When the post office delivers to your house, it's more like, slow, inefficient, perfect description of what government is, which is why, as elected officials, we need to make sure government gets out of the way and let private industry lead the way in our economy. It always works. You look at the states right now that are failing. The states right now that are failing are overburdening businesses, overburdening business owners, and chasing them away. And they're failing economically. North Carolina cannot be like that. We have absolutely too many opportunities in this state to grow this state, and we have great people in this state. We have a great education system. Needs a lot of work. Public education needs a lot of work. But we have a great education system. From our grade schools all the way up to higher learning, we have a great education system. We have a great workforce. The problem is we've got some areas like the East that we need to do some work on. And we need some people who are going to innovate in this state, not imitate. We don't need to go to any other state and look and see how they do it. We need to take the innovation that exists in the minds of the good people of North Carolina right here, get them together, and figure out how we can build an economy in this state that works for everybody all across this state. How we can link the mountains in the East to the flatlands, mountains in the West to the flatlands in the East. How the eastern part of the state is sparse right now. How can we use Research Triangle Park to help build that area up? What industries are there that exist there that could be expanded to the east? And here it is. How can we modernize our coast so that South Carolina and Virginia stop beating the pants off us and taking all the money. Money that's passing right by us on I-95 is going that way because we have not made the investment in the areas that are depressed in this state. And so that's what I believe we need to focus on in this state. We need to focus on continuing to lower taxes. You know, that's one of the funniest things ever, and one of the best lessons that I've learned since I've been paying attention to politics. It does seem like it would be odd. How in the world do you keep the government going if you lower taxes? It doesn't seem like it makes any sense. I remember the first time I heard it, they said, we're going to cut taxes. And I thought, well, if you cut taxes, you're not going to have any revenue. But then you got to think about it in a common sense way. If I cut the taxes and the businesses come here, there's going to be even more tax revenue. Why? Because you're going to have more jobs, more investment, more money flowing throughout your economy. It's common sense. It's common sense that relies on what works, and what works is private industry. Private industry works. Investment works. Keeping money in your pocket so you can invest works. Keeping money in the pockets of those investors so they can reinvest works. Taxing people to death does not. It's been proven time and time again, it does not work. And so what's the mission here? The mission here is to seek out elected officials. And I'm going to say something that I'm probably not supposed to say as a Republican. The thing is to seek out elected officials from every party. From every party. And here it is. When it comes to the economy, sometimes social issues don't matter so much. When you sit down at the table with folks that want to figure out how North Carolina families can feed their families and build their lives and build their communities, it's time sometime to put the social issues aside and focus on what's doing right for the majority, doing right for folks in this state. Social issues, y'all all know how I feel about social issues, abortion, things of that nature. I'm a person who fights against that fiercely. But when we start talking about our economy, we need everybody to come to the table. Everybody. When you sit down at the table with me and we're talking about how we can build up the eastern part of the state and lift people out of poverty in that area and draw people into that area and make sure that we have affordable housing in that area and good jobs in those areas, it's not really going to matter to me how you feel about abortion at that moment. We could talk about that some other time. That's another issue for us to talk about at a later date. But making sure that folks can feed themselves and feed their families. That should not be an argument. That should not be something where we are disagreeable. That should be something where we sit down at the table as level-headed people who all want the right outcome and try to find a solution that works. Because that's important. You know, Ronald Reagan said a long time ago, he said, you know, it's amazing what you can get done if you don't care who gets the credit. Let me tell y'all something. I'm grown enough and wise enough and learned enough in my life, I don't care who gets the credit. When I'm an old man, you know, when I got I'm barely able to walk and, you know, ain't got no teeth and all that good stuff they say happens to you when you get old. You know, here it is. I want to get old for one reason. I want to be able to say whatever I want to say. I met a World War II veteran not too long ago, about 90 plus years old. He looks at me and says, you know, man, I've been waiting to meet you for about a year now. And I just couldn't wait to meet you. Saw you on television, saw you here, saw you there, and I just love you and couldn't wait to meet you. But let me tell you something. I tell you, boy, you sure are fatter in person than you are. That's where I want to be. That's how I want to have no filter whatsoever. But if the Lord blesses me to get to that age and I'm able to do the work that I want to do with the people of North Carolina and with all the great legislators and all the great leaders in North Carolina, if I'm driving out east many years from now, and I'm driving through
places that used to be barren wastelands, and their neighborhoods full of children playing, and big schools and big industries, and everything's going great, and I'm driving through there. I'm not gonna care if they knew that Mark Robinson was involved. I'm not gonna care. I'm not gonna care if they knew my name. I don't want them to put a statue up to me saying, look what this guy built. I just want to leave North Carolina better than I found it. And I don't care who gets the credit. But credit is not what matters. What matters is leaving the place better than you found it. There are many people who have given their lives for this nation. Nobody knows their names. Nobody knows their names. Many of them never even got to come home from the wars that they fought in. They're buried at sea. They're buried in places we can't even name, with names we can't even pronounce. That's not what matters. What matters is the fact that they help preserve freedom. And I feel the same way about North Carolina and being able to apply those conservative principles to North Carolina to help her continue to grow. I don't care who gets the credit. I just want to see this place better than it is now. Not to say that it's bad. It's the greatest state in the union. It's the greatest state in the union. But we can make it a whole lot better. And that should be our goal. And so that's my commitment to North Carolina. That's my commitment. And it's my solemn belief. See, people call me a conservative and they say, you're a conservative. Conservatives don't want things to get better. No. I'm not a conservative because I want things to stay the same. I'm a conservative because I want things to get better. The only difference is I know that socialism, communism, and big government are not the way to get there. The way to get there is common sense and wisdom and operating on principles. So again, that's my commitment to North Carolina, and it always will be, because quite frankly, I love this state. I love this state, and I know that I love it because wherever I travel in the world, I can't wait to get home. I really can't wait. There's no place I've ever been where I said, I think I want to stay here. No. I want to go home to North Carolina where things make sense. We got to keep making sense in this state. The more sense that we make in this state, the better it'll get. So thank y'all for being here. We appreciate you all. Thank y'all for giving me this little bit of time. God bless you all. God bless the great state of North Carolina. And I'll take questions if you want to pose some questions. Thank y'all so much. All right. No ground rules.
Please keep it simple. We could be here till tomorrow night.
That's right.
And let's stay on what our association stands for. Let's stay on tax and property valuations and economy. Let's just don't get off in La La Land and all these places that we could go tonight, okay? So